Thomas Starkey lived pretty well for a salesman. So did Griffin and Harris, from the look of their new houses. Everything was neat and clean. Even the kids' toys were stacked and arranged on shelves. Starkey and his wife sure ran a tight ship. The kitchen was high-tech, with a big Sub-Zero refrigerator. Shiny stainless steel all-clad pots and pans hung above the workstation. A giant cast-iron skillet had a place of pride on the right back burner of the stove. Off the master bedroom was a small room that turned out to be Starkey's den. Lots of Army souvenirs and pictures. I looked at the photographs on the walls, saw Harris and Griffin in several, but none of the men whom they had set up. I didn't really expect to see Ellis Cooper in a picture on Thomas Starkey's wall, but that didn't stop me from hoping. Sampson was opening desk drawers and examining the contents of several cabinets built into the wall. He came to a closet with a padlock on it. He looked over at me. I shrugged. Go for it. That's what we're here for. No turning back now. He took out his Glock and smashed down with the butt. The padlock held, but he had snapped the hinge off the wall. Obviously, the lock was just to keep out Starkey's kids, and maybe his wife. Dirty pictures, Sampson said as he rummaged around inside. Skin magazines. Some nasty bondage. One with really young girls. Here the women are shaved. Lots of Asian girls. Fancy that. Maybe they did those girls in New York. Sampson checked the closet for false sides. Nothing. Just the sleazy porn collection. He's not the husband and daddy of the year, but I guess we knew that already. I kept looking, but I didn't think I'd find anything incriminating. He must keep the good stuff somewhere else. I guess we should go. Leave everything the way it is. I want Starkey to know we were here. Might get Tom in some trouble with the missus, Sampson said, winking. Good deal. He should be in trouble with somebody. Sampson and I walked back through the house and out the side door again. Birds were chirping in the trees. How sweet. The sun was a brilliant white gold orb in blue skies. Nice town, Rocky Mount. A blue GMC Suburban was parked out front. Starkey, Harris, and Griffin were waiting for us. 3 blind mice. Also 3 against 2. Chapter 84. No point in being subtle. Sampson and I took out our guns. We held them with the barrels down, not pointed at anyone. The 3 of them didn't appear to be armed. Just a friendly little game, right?
Nothing's gonna happen here,
Starkey called to us.
This is where my wife and children live. It's a good neighborhood. Decent people in all these houses up and down the street.
And it's also where you keep your porn collection, I said. S&M, bondage, memories of your sweethearts from the war. He smiled thinly. Nodded.
That too. You're detectives, right? D.C., friends of Sergeant Ellis Cooper. Seems to me that you're a long ways from home. Why don't you go back to Washington? It's safer there than here in Rocky Mount, believe it or not.
We know what you've done, I told him. Most of it, anyway. We don't know why yet. That'll come. We're getting close. The An Lao Valley in Vietnam? What happened there, Colonel Starkey? It was real bad, right? Things got out of control? Why are 3 blind mice still in operation? Starkey didn't deny the murders or anything else, I said.
There's nothing you can do to us. Like I said, I think you should go home now. Consider this a friendly warning. We're not bad guys. We're just doing our job.
What if we don't go? Sampson asked. What if we continue the investigation here in Rocky Mount? You killed a friend of mine. Starkey clasped his hands together. Then he looked at Harris and Griffin. I could tell they weren't into friendly warnings.
Don't come near any of our houses again,
Starkey said. His eyes were cold and hard. The assassin. We're not bad guys. We're a whole lot worse than that. Brownlee Harris pushed himself away from the hood of the Suburban.
You hear what the man said? You 2 niggers listening? You ought to be. Now clear the fuck out of here and don't ever come back. You don't come to a man's house with this shit. Not the way it's done, you hear? You fucking hear me?
I smiled. You're the hothead. That's good to know. Starkey is the leader, so what does that make you, Griffin? You just muscle? Warren Griffin laughed out loud.
That's right. I'm just muscle and artillery. I'm the one who eats guys like you for breakfast.
I didn't move a muscle. Neither did Samson. We continued to stare at the three of them. I am curious about one thing, Starkey. How do you know about us? Who told you? His answer shook me to the core.
Foot soldier,
he said. Then Colonel Thomas Starkey smiled and tipped his ball cap. Chapter 85. Samson and I rode the interstate back to Washington late that afternoon. I was really starting to dislike, or at least tire of I-95 and its thundering herd of slip-sliding, exhaust-spewing tractor-trailers. The circumstances could be better, but it's good spending all this time with you, I said as we tooled along in the passing lane. You're too quiet, though. What's up? Something's bothering you. He looked my way. You remember a time. We were about 11. I came over, spent a couple of weeks with you and Nana. I remember a lot of times like that, I told him. Nana used to say we were brothers, just not flesh and blood ones. You were always at the house. This time was different, Sugar. I even know why you don't remember. Let me tell it. All right. See, I never used to go home after school. Reason being, nobody was there most of the time. That night I got home around 9:30. Made myself corned beef hash for dinner. Sat down to watch some tube. I used to like Mission Impossible back then. Wait for it all week. There was a knock at the door. I went to see who was there, and it was Nana. She gave me a big hug, just like she still does when she sees me. Asked me if I had some corned beef hash for her, too. Said she liked hers with eggs on top. Then she cackled her cackle, you know. I don't remember any of this. Why was she at your house so late at night? Samson continued with his story. My father was in prison that year. Nothing unusual. That afternoon, my mother was convicted for possession of heroin, with intent to sell. She'd been sentenced. Social services came by, but I was out. Somebody called Nana Mama. So Nana came over, and she actually ate a little of the hash I'd cooked. Told me it was pretty good. Maybe I would be a famous chef one day. Then she said I was coming over to your house for a while. She told me why. She had done some of her magic with child welfare. That was the first time that Nana saved me. The first of many times. I nodded, listened. Samson wasn't finished with his story. She was the one who helped me get into the Army after high school, then into the police academy when I got out of the service. She's your grandmother, but she's more a mother to me than my own flesh. And I never had a father, not really. Neither of us did. I always thought that held us together in the beginning. It wasn't like Samson to go on and open up like this. I still didn't speak. I had no idea where he was headed, but I let him go as much as he wanted to. I always knew I didn't have it in me to be a father or a good husband. It was just something I felt inside. You? I had some fears before I met Maria, I said. Then they just went away. Most of them, anyway. I knew Maria and I would be good together. First time I held Damon, the rest of the fears pretty much disappeared for good. Samson began to smile. Then he was laughing. I met somebody, Alex. It's strange, but she makes me happy, and I trust her with my secrets. Look at me. I'm grinning like a goddamn Halloween pumpkin. Both of us were laughing now. Why not? It was the first time I had seen Samson in love, and we'd been friends for a long time. I'll mess it up somehow, he said. But he was still laughing. We joked and laughed most of the rest of the way home. Jesus. John Samson had a girlfriend. Billy. Chapter 86. Nana Mama always used to say, Laugh before breakfast, cry before dinner. If you've raised a family, you know there's some truth to that, crazy as it sounds. When I got back to 5th Street that night, there was a red and white EMS truck sitting in front of our house. I shut down the Porsche and bounded out of it. It was raining, and the bracing wind and water whipped at my face. Partially blinded by the rain, I hurtled up the front steps and entered the house. My heart was hammering, and a voice inside whispered, "No, no, no." I heard voices coming from the living room and rushed in there, expecting the worst. Nana, Mama, and the kids were sitting on the old sofa. They were all holding hands. Across from them sat a woman in a white lab coat. I recognized Dr. Kayla Coles from the night with Damon's sick friend, Ramon. "You missed all the excitement," Nana said as she saw me enter the room. "Imagine that, Daddy," said Janny. "You missed the excitement." I looked toward the doctor sitting in the easy chair. "Hello, Doctor." She had a good smile. "Nice to see you again." I turned to Nana. "Exactly what excitement did I miss? For starters, what's the EMS truck doing outside?" She shrugged. "I thought I had a heart attack, Alex. Turns out it was just a fainting spell." Dr. Coles spoke. "Nana doesn't remember passing out. I was down the street at the time. I work with a group that brings health care into the neighborhoods of Southeast. Makes it easier for some people to get good care. More personal and definitely more affordable." I interrupted. "Nana passed out. What happened to her?" "Damon saw the EMS truck and he came and got me. Nana was already up on her feet. She had an irregular heartbeat, rapid, threading. The pulse in her wrist wasn't as fast as the actual heart rate, so there could be some diminished circulation. We took her over to St. Anthony's for a few tests." Nana shrugged the whole thing off. "I fell down, went boom in the kitchen. Always hoped it would be there. Damon and Janny were just great, Alex. About time they started taking care of me for a change." She laughed, and so did Dr. Coles. I was glad they both saw the humor in the situation. "You're still here. It's past 9, I said to the doctor. She smiled. Good bedside manner, or whatever this was. We were having so much fun, I decided to stay for a while. I still have one more stop, but Mr. Bryant doesn't get off work until 10. "And," I said, "you were waiting for me to get home." "Yes. I thought that would be the best idea. Nana says you work late a lot of nights. Could we talk for a minute?" Chapter 87. The two of us stepped out onto the front porch. Heavy rain was pelting down on the overhang, and the air was damp and cool. The good doctor pulled a gray car sweater around herself. "I've already had this chat with your grandmother," she said. "Nana asked that I talk to you, answer all your questions. I would never go behind her back or condescend to her in any way." "That's a good idea," I said. "I think you'd find that she's awfully hard to condescend to." Kayla suddenly laughed. "Oh, I know. I had Mrs. Regina Hope Cross in 8th grade. She's still probably the most inspirational teacher I've had. That includes undergraduate at Brandeis and medical school at Tufts. Thought I would flash my resume by you." "Okay, I'm impressed. So what's the matter with Nana?" Kayla sighed. "She's getting old, Alex. She admits to 82. The tests we took at St. Anthony's won't come back until sometime tomorrow or the next day. The lab boys will call me, then I'll call Nana myself. My concern? She's been having palpitations for several weeks. Dizziness, lightheadedness, shortness of breath. She tell you?" I shook my head. Suddenly I felt more than a little embarrassed. I had no idea. She told me she was feeling fine. There was a rough morning a couple of weeks back, but no complaints from her since. She doesn't want you to worry about her. When she was at St. Anthony's, we did an EKG, an echocardiogram, routine lab work. As I mentioned, her heartbeat is irregular. On the positive side of things, there's no sign of edema. Her lungs are clear, no evidence that she's suffered a stroke, even a slight one. Nana has very good general muscle strength.